You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the September 19th, 2023 meeting of the LaPorte County Board of Zoning Appeals. You may find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the September 19th meeting of the LaPorte County Board of Zoning Appeals. If you would stand for the pledge. Vern, would you lead us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Melissa Mullins-Mishke.
Here.
Glenn Minnick.
Here.
Vern Schaefer.
Here.
Deb Vance.
Here.
April Daly.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 15th.
I have one correction. I don't know how important this stuff is, but I just to prove that I read these things. On the 6th page, they're not numbered, by the way.
They are.
Oh, okay. Yes, they are. On the 6th page, the third line, I think that was supposed to be Robert Stevens. I think that was supposed to be Robert Stevens that made that.
Okay.
So,
I agree.
I hope you don't have to retype the whole thing. That's all I found. Very, very efficient, though. Very good.
Is that your motion to approve
With that?
with an amendment?
Yeah, we can approve those as amended then.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right. All right. Tonight we do have the order has been rearranged for the petitions. Remonstrance is going to be limited to 3 minutes per person, and that is your time for public comment. There's no other time for comment or questions other than during remonstrance. So with that, let's start in with petition number 1. It's a petition of variance for developmental standards for Richard C. Weller and Deborah Weller, owner, and Tyler and Kylie Weller, buyer, represented by counsel Anthony Novak of Newby Lewis, Kaminsky and Jones, to split a parcel. Parent parcel will have 200 feet of road frontage and approximately 5 acres of land. New parcel would have 100 feet of road frontage and approximately 3 acres. Property is located at 7158 East, 200 North, Rolling Prairie, Wills Township, Zoned Ag, on 8.264.
That's adequate.
Thank you. If you would state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Anthony Novak. I'm an attorney with Newby Lewis, Kaminsky and Jones in LaPorte. Offices at 916 Lincoln Way. I'm here on behalf of the Weller family. There's owners of the property, Deborah and Richard Weller, which are in the back. And then their son is Tyler, and his wife, Kylie, is back there as well. So joint petitioners tonight. They own 8 acres with currently 300 feet of road frontage. And tonight what we're asking for is a split of the parcel, with the new parcel having 100 feet and the parent parcel having 200 feet. This might look familiar to you all, at least to Vern, Glenn, and Deb. Back in March, they were in front of you asking for a variance on road frontage. At that time, the new parcel would have 50 feet, and the parent parcel would retain 250. And I believe Vern asked at that time what was the reason that it was split that way, and it was mainly because, as you can see on Exhibit A, the primary structure sits smack dab in the middle of the property, and then there's a barn that sits near the east property line, so they were trying to comply with setbacks on that. Ultimately, I believe maybe Vern motioned to approve, but it did not. It failed 2-1. Vern and Deb in favor, Glenn opposed. Tyler asked if there was something that could be done, and Glenn explained one of the main issues was the inequity of the split here. But fortunately, you guys waived the requirement to wait a year, and then here we are now 5-6 months later. So what we're doing here is a little unique. It's shown on Exhibit B, but it is our effort to have a more equitable split. This obviously is not a survey. They didn't want to, rightfully so, spend the money on the survey if it'd be denied, but they plan on getting a survey if ultimately approved. So with this plan, we'd have 100 feet of road frontage for the first 60 feet on the new parcel. It'd ultimately angle back along the driveway. It'd be 35 feet back, or excuse me, 35 feet wide going all the way 900 feet back. The last 300 feet would then expand where the actual structure would be, and then that would be the new shape of the lot. While this is obviously pretty peculiar, it is strategic. Section 303C of the zoning code talks about minimum lot frontage being a certain amount, needing to go back at least the front yard setback of 60 feet. So we have 100 feet wide going back that minimum depth of 60 feet. It then angles in to 35 feet wide, also strategic, because then that will maintain a 30-foot setback from that barn, ultimately going back to the structure. So with that, we're here again, asking for approval now of a new lot with 100 feet of road frontage, hoping for your blessing. And I have the Wellers here if you guys have any specific substantive questions on the split.
Thank you. Do we have any remonstrators tonight for petition number 1? Anybody here for or against petition number 1? Any remonstrators for petition number 1? Questions from the board?
Got anything, Glenn?
Not really.
What about you, Vern?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we accept the petition for variance for developmental standards for Richard Weller and Deborah Weller owners and Tyler and Kylie Weller buyer for the split of this parcel in the way that it is designed here, and I would suggest strongly that if it gets approved, that you do get a survey on this so that there are definite lines in case you ever want to sell the property.
My second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Aye. You passed. Congratulations. Petition number 2 this evening is a petition of variance of developmental standards for Kurt J. Dedman and Elliot G. Fishburne IV, represented by counsel Andrew Volz of House LLP, for an addition to a non-conforming structure with a front setback of 8 feet instead of 25 feet and a porch with a setback of 4 feet instead of 15 feet. Property is located at 7136 North Chicago Road, New Carlisle, Hudson Township, zoned R1B on .17 acres.
Andrew, did you hand me the notices?
Yeah.
Okay. And notices adequate.
Thank you. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. My name is Andrew Volz. I'm an attorney with House & House here in LaPorte, 717 Indiana Avenue, LaPorte, Indiana, 46350. I'm representing petitioners in regards to this matter, specifically relating to E.G. Fishburne and then Kurt Denman. I will note that there's been some further research that's been done on this, and the setbacks actually are increased from what was indicated in the notice of public hearing and the petition. The setbacks are actually, instead of 4 foot, it's going to wind up being 9 foot on the one side, meaning the porch side, and then 8 foot on the other side next to the utility pole. My clients provided a presentation that I believe you all have. This might be one of the most precise presentations I've ever seen. I'm thinking of hiring them at this point. What they're asking for is congruent with what that area is with regards to goofy little setbacks, because nothing was ever adhered to with the way the road is. They have made substantial improvements to that property, as you can see from the differences between the images from 2008 and 2023. They've made substantial improvements to the property at 715 North Canal Street, including refaced seawall, exterior painting, new lakeside deck, patio including gas fire pit, new water well, what we're requesting here is a variance of the current non-conforming structure, which quite frankly is every property or every house on every property out there, with a small addition in order to upgrade their mechanicals, improve livability, and further enhance curb appeal. I don't believe that, at least in my opinion, any of the items specifically mentioned in Article 1505 or Article 2811 with regards to the requirements that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property involved will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. In fact, it will be benefited because this is going to be the nicest house on the block. And the strict applications of the terms of the zoning ordinance would result in the practical difficulties for the use of the property. And I will note that in the drawing that was presented, I believe on page 4, the shed that was on the property has already been moved to the side lot. So that's gone. And if you look at the fact that that shed was only 3 foot off the property line, we're going to wind up with 8 feet now. And then on the other side, 9, because of the way that Canal Street kind of jogs to the southeast or southwest, excuse me. So we're asking for approval of this petition with regards to in addition to a non-conforming structure with front setback of, now we're talking about 8 feet instead of 25 feet, and then 9 feet instead of 15 feet. And my clients are here if you would like to, if they need to entertain any questions.
No, I don't know. This is nice.
Andrew, if you would just give me the new setbacks again,
Okay.
please.
So if you go to page 4, it's the one with the yellow. What had previously been petitioned for was a setback of 4 foot instead of 15 feet, and that actually turned out to be 9 feet because of the way that the road jogs that direction. So it increased the setback even more than what it previously was.
So 9 feet instead of 4.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any remonstrators tonight for this petition? Anybody for or against petition number 2? Anybody for or against petition number 2? Questions of the board?
My question,
Andrew?
my question doesn't concern those setbacks as much as it does this change. You took from one plot and moved to another plot part of the property, but I don't understand how. Isn't that Canal Street? Doesn't that come out to Chicago Road?
No, it does not. I'm not going to call it a road. That access point is not a road. And if you look on Beacon or if you look on Google, if you Google the address, it doesn't show up as a road. It's simply an area or a driveway is all it is. And it relates to an easement that existed years and years ago between these two adjacent parcels. And now the parcels have been joined. So if you note the pin with regards to Canal Street being shown as a dead end at 9 foot, that's accurate. Because the road that comes in, and Mr. Minnick, I know exactly what you're talking about because I was out there today. If you're trying to go there using GPS or Google, they're taking you all the way past, and then you got to come around on the south side. It's not a county road.
Do people use that access though, and have they been using that access that past the dead end to go out to Boundary Road or whatever that is, Chicago Road?
There are occasionally people that have done that, but that's not what is subject to the petition here tonight because we're still maintaining the setback from what is called North Canal Street. It's not impacting that entry. I don't even know what to call it. I'm not going to call it an alleyway. I'm not going to call it a road. It's simply gravel. And again, it was many moons ago, an easement between the two parcels that are now joined.
So the actual survey or the maps for tax purposes show that this is part of their property.
Yes, that is
With an
correct.
easement, possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
But, you know, I know I'm not an attorney here, but adverse possession laws would cause some issues there if people want to pass through that area and they try to close it off. But that, you know, that, like I said, that might not be involved with the petition here today.
It's not gonna be involved, because anybody that's gonna assert the right to use that has to do it on a continuous basis for a period of 20 years, and that would be subject, the ultimate result would be a court order.
Okay.
So nothing exists right now.
So nobody's used it for that period of time and they're not, and I don't see any remonstrators
Yeah,
there.
even if they were using it, they don't have a right to use it until the court says so.
Yeah, okay.
It's hard to turn a bus around.
That was just a question. I don't really have any other questions. This is
Shaker, I
quite,
appreciate your
quite
question.
detailed, as I might add, more than the sketches we normally get, so
So are we
I appreciate that, actually.
back of 8 instead of 25?
I think it's still 8. I thought it was the 4 that went to 9. That's the only one I have.
And a porch with a setback of 4. What is the one?
Deb, do you have any questions? If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I move that we accept the petition for variance of developmental standards for Kurt Denham and Elliot Fishburne, represented by counsel Andrew Foltz, for a non-conforming structure with a front setback of 8. And of course, have these changed now in your request?
That is correct.
I want to get these numbers right.
Okay, so it's going to be 8 foot instead of 25 foot,
Side?
and then 5 foot instead of the 15 feet. 9, excuse me, thank you.
9 foot instead of the 15. So scratch the 4, put the 9, 15.
And that's the side setback? Because that's not really written in there.
No, it's the front setback. If, again, I will refer to page 4 of this presentation.
Do you understand that?
This, with the yellow,
There's 2 front setbacks.
they're both front setbacks as related to Canal Street and the property line. The side setbacks are already grandfathered in, I guess is the best way to put it. We're not addressing that here at this point.
So in other words, I'm saying the setback of 8 feet instead of 25 feet, and a porch with a setback of 9 feet instead of 15 feet.
Did you give me the only copy with that page?
Shouldn't the, I mean,
You got that one?
a porch setback, I mean, it's either a front, a side, or a back.
It's the front. He wrote it, he could say, I'm gonna say front twice, but both are for the front. And when I draft the findings, they'll both be for the front.
Okay. I'll second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye?
I,
Those opposed, same sign. Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm just quadruple checking. I really think I did. All right, fine. Moving on to petition number 3 this evening is a petition for variance of use for Olo Auction Holdings LLC, represented by counsel Andrew Lucas of Martz and Lucas LLC, to operate an online auction business. The property is located at 11201 South, 1025 West, Wanata, Clinton Township, zoned R1B on 5 acres. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening, folks. Thank you for taking the time to hear this evening. So we actually have two requests as we
I'm
put
sorry.
in our.
Did you state your name and address for the record, please?
I apologize. Andrew Lucas. I represent OLO Auctions, 105 Lincoln Way, Valparaiso, Indiana, 46383. All right, so we actually have a twofold request this evening, and we have a PowerPoint that we brought along with handouts. The first is that we were told we had to apply for the variance, which is a decision that we don't necessarily agree with because we believe the property is grandfathered in. We'll explain that. So the first is that we're asking the board for a finding of fact that there's no change in use and it's properly non-conforming. But in the alternative, not to waste anyone's time, we will also present why we meet the elements of a variance for an online auction at that site.
Council,
Yes, sir.
if I may take a break in your presentation so they can vote on the first
Be happy
issue
to.
before the second, okay?
Yep, we would be happy to handle it that way. Thank you. All right, so next slide if we could. We'll start with a little background about the property at issue. It's 11201 South, 1025 West Wanata. We're half a mile west of 421, about 2 miles north of Wanata. And as Madam Chair mentioned, the zoning and all of those things. As far as we've been able, next slide please. As far as we've been able to figure out, this property was built by REMC in the 80s, and it's had warehouses on it since at least the early 90s, we believe into the 80s, and it's been continuously used as a commercial warehouse property since that time. My client, OLO Auction Holdings, which is a subsidiary of Craft Auctions, which is located in Porter County, bought the property about a year ago and then was approached after the purchase and told they had to apply for this. So we'll start with why we don't believe a variance is needed. And to understand that, I think you need to understand a little bit about the owner. Craft Auction Services is a company located on Highway 30 in Porter County. This is actually their Porter County facility. To the extent that any business is run, it's run out of Kraft's main business office located in Porter County, which is a fairly extensive facility. So to the extent that an online auction is run or there are checks cut, things like that, that occurs at the Porter County facility, not at the LaPorte County facility that is up for petition tonight. And I think that's important. What the LaPorte County facility that we're here to talk about this evening is used for is storage of items that are being sold on the online auction that's run through the Porter County facility. There will be no in-person auctions at the site, not your traditional 100 cars and guys standing around all day. That's not what the facility is going to be used for. It will simply be used to store items that are being sold online, run through the Porter County facility. And so our first request, why we don't believe a petition or a variance is needed. Zoning Ordinance 29.01 talks about if a use is lawfully existing, but made non-conforming by a new ordinance, then it may be continued. We believe that these structures predate the current zoning ordinance in LaPorte County, and that therefore it was proper before the new ordinance came into place and can be continued. The second part of that is there a change in use. Obviously, a non-conforming use that sees a change in use can then expire and a variance is needed. We don't believe there's any change in use on the property. Section 31.24 defines a warehouse under the zoning code. A building used for short-term storage includes truck loading and unloading, outdoor storage of trucks and trailers that is no more than the area of the warehouse being used. We believe that is exactly how Kraft is using the property. It is being used to store items on a short-term basis. It's, again, if there were live in-person auctions being held here, I would see why that would be a change in use, but we don't believe there's a change in use, thus no variance needed. if on a very short-term basis, there may be pickup of items, probably less than 4 days a month. But again, I think the definition of a warehouse contemplates that those items will be picked up. So our first request for this evening is an up or down vote on the idea of whether a variance is even needed. We believe it was a prior non-conforming use with no change in use, and therefore no variance is needed.
May I ask a question, Madam President?
Yes, please.
Okay, did that use continue until the transfer of the real estate? Was there a break in the use?
No, there was no break in the use. There were tenants in that space using the warehouse for storage when Kraft bought it. I believe the most recent one was Lawn Company was using it. Yeah, a lawn company, and then there was someone before that. So we don't believe there was any break in use of the property when OLO bought it.
Okay, you say there were tenants renting it for storage. How many?
How many tenants?
I want to make sure this wasn't a self-storage and that it was a warehouse.
No, it was not a self-storage. It was being used by a landscaping company up until the point of the sale. I believe they were keeping both equipment indoor and outdoor at that point.
Okay.
He's gonna have monthly consignment.
I guess while we're thinking about this, my question is obviously, I know where the property is, and of course we haven't asked for remonstrators, so we'll get to that. But is there any intention of storing anything outside of the buildings for that purpose? There's trailers, obviously.
Yes, I believe there is, that there would be things stored outside. We believe it would fit the definition of a warehouse, so that the outdoor storage would be less than the indoor storage off of 31.24, which is the definition of a warehouse.
And these particular trailers are for sale, or are they? Okay.
Yep.
So, how what's the turnaround on this kind of stuff? How long does this stuff set before it gets moved?
Brian, you want to answer that question? I'm sorry, this is Brian Shuck. He's a representative from
Sure.
the company.
I don't. I thought it was definitely.
I need to get you, and if you would please state your name and address for the record.
Brian Shuck, 48 North, 450 East, Valparaiso, Indiana. So the product turns every 30 days. So once the monthly auction goes off, that product goes out, new product comes in. The online auction goes off, again and again.
Okay,
I agree. I think
that's just a point of clarification for me.
Thanks, sir.
Make sure your mic's on.
Well, I want to ask a question because we're looking at the petition for variance of use where it says to operate an online auction business, right? It doesn't say storage there. And then when I look it up on here, it says this location will host monthly consignment auction. So that's a little different than what we're hearing.
Well, I can tell you that I've got our petition in front of us. First of all, that there's no change in use, and if you want to ask Mr. Shuck, he'd be happy to tell you. This is items that are being sold online by consignment. I believe it means Kraft obviously doesn't own these items. It's simply being sold, but it's not a live in-person
Okay, because
auction.
it doesn't
it's just being
say
used
online
as
here.
Well, if I can clarify,
okay.
this is a procedural issue.
Okay.
Because he's saying we don't need one. We're grandfathered. That would not be a petition for variance. So he's allowed to make the argument, I don't even need to ask you, we can keep going. So that's the only part he's asking for at this stage.
Correct.
And your determination is this use the same use as it was before? And if that's the case, then they're grandfathered in, they don't need a variance. So then we don't go to the petition part of it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
It was my decision to require this to appear before this board and appear at a public hearing. The reason I made that decision is because my determination was that it was similar use, but not exactly the same use. I also knew that there was going to be incoming remonstration. So in the interest of transparency and public involvement, I made a decision to require them to petition for the variance appear before this board at a public hearing. Whatever you decide, I'm good with it. I just wanted it to be done in public.
Okay, thank you. And so Attorney BG, just to be clear, our remonstrance is going to be whether or not they're in favor of it being grandfathered in or not.
I don't think you, frankly, I don't think there should be remonstrances on a procedural
fine.
decision. Now, if you choose it's not grandfathered in, the next phase would be, can they get a variance?
okay.
Okay, but it's a fact finding by the board unless there's evidence that there was a break in the use, okay? Then, yeah, that would be relevant, but anything else would not be relevant since you're making a procedural decision first.
Okay, thank you. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes, it's clear to me. Obviously, my feeling from what I'm hearing is that if the use doesn't change from what it's been in the past, that we basically aren't making any ruling except for the fact that it shouldn't change from what they've been doing. So if it's used as a storage facility, then that's what it's been used for years. So there's no change.
So I need a motion on that.
But if that's true, then they should have evidence of continuous leases. Otherwise, how do we know? We'd need leases to say that it was continuously used.
Unless there's somebody that's gonna stand up and say it was not. That's where the remonstrators can't speak and say, no, it was used for this or this or this, okay? But that's the only thing they can speak to at this stage.
Okay.
I guess you.
Perhaps we should ask for remonstrance.
Yeah, are there any remonstrators on continuous use?
There are several.
Are you gonna,
Madam Chairman, members of the board, David Ambers, attorney at law with an office at 601 State Street here in LaPorte, Indiana. Obviously, I'll be back up if we move to the second part of this meeting.
Dave, how many remonstrators are you representing?
I am simply representing one. I'm representing Rebecca Hall, as listed on the tax rolls, Rebecca Fagan, since been married, at 11232 South 1025 West, directly across the street from this property.
Okay, thank you.
The first of all, council really simplifies this. If you go back and you look at your schedule of uses, going all the way back to the previous code, the current code came into effect January 7th, 2012. That code made this property R1B as in boy. The previous code, which I have with me, this property was R2, and quite frankly, I was talking to my law clerk today, and I really think A and B became, 1 and 2 became A and B, the way it appears by the ordinance. So it's always been zoned residential. Council oversimplifies the use of warehouse by REMC because that was not the use that existed at that property. If you look at your schedule of uses throughout the various districts, there is a separate provision for utility buildings. And that's what REMC used this property for. Did they store some poles out there? Did they store some wire out there? Yes. Those buildings were not warehouse. I believe there was a mechanic shop. I believe there were some offices. I had my farm down by the river years ago and went there a couple times, but the buildings weren't used as a warehouse. And that's what they're trying to pull past you, is to say that this whole property was a warehouse, and it wasn't. You have to go to, under the current ordinance, the central business district or industrial business district to have an auction house, and just about any of your zoning classifications allows for utility buildings. So I think that's a distinguishment you have to make considering non-conforming use. The second is, which one of you alluded to, there's been absolutely no proof what has happened since REMC sold that property to the seller of your petitioner. REMC sold that property in 2006. My clients advised me that the most recent person in there was a landscape company. A landscape maintenance company is not generally a user of warehouse space. And so it's a real tough pull just to go there, not to mention the fact that we have no proof going back to 2006 that there was a continuous use of this property, and that under Article 2901E, that there was not a 1-year break in the use of this property, which would have killed any non-conforming use. So I would like for you folks to consider that. Information before you jump and simplify that, okay, it's always been a warehouse. We can't tell you who was there. We can't tell you when they were there. But we think it was a warehouse and we want to use it as a warehouse. So grandfather us in and we don't ever have to come back here. I think your initial vote needs to be to deny the grandfather or the non-conforming use, because there has been no proof of continuous use since 2006, and move to the second portion of the petition.
Thank you. Are there additional remonstrators? Okay, seeing and hearing.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
David.
I need you to come all the way up and don't be shy. It's okay. If you would state your name and your address.
My name's Arlene Combs. My address is 11141 South 1025 West. I live right next door to the property. And since Craft Auction has come in, I've had continuous cars turning down my driveway, driving through my property to the access road in the back. This has been continuously since they've come in, and I don't like it. We have lots of cars flying up and down our road. We have the access road that backs up to the Clinton Ballpark, and they do their leagues there, and you've got traffic coming because Kraft has directed all traffic to go up to 1100 and not use the entrance that's on 1025. And I don't understand why they're not using it, but they're using the access road. My property backs up to the access road in the back, and they're coming in through the back gate into their property, picking up their stuff, and then going back out. They're coming back down our road. Why they don't go to 421 and come in from 421, I have no idea. But I don't like all of the traffic, especially down my driveway. I now have to block my driveway to prevent people from turning, because my driveway is right there at the end of their fence. So I do not like it. I don't like the traffic. We can't go walking down the road because there's just way too many cars. And we went through this for a variance several years ago with Todd Anson, Flat Rock, and he didn't win because we all fought it. Should be a residential area and should remain that, and not a business coming in and doing what they want or having hazardous waste. I'm not for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So come up.
No, I didn't. Yes, I did. Oh, it's just because
My name is Evan L. Hornsby, 11122 South, 1025 West, Wanata. I live across the street and one house down from the fence. I think when we were here in, I believe it was 2012, we came in here for a variance when Mr. Hanson tried to get the property changed from residential to commercial. What we were fighting at that time was the fact that if it's changed to commercial, God knows what can come in there. We found out there was like 200 different businesses that could come in there. You could have a recycling plant that's running 24/7. I don't know if you gentlemen know, but there's like 15, 20 houses right there in that area. We're just over the property of the town of Wanata. And we fought it because we didn't want commercial in there. Now, it isn't set up that it could be made into homes or anything, and then again, maybe it could, I guess. But the thing of it is, when the REMC had run their business all those years and they never had that changed, and we stopped it, and all of a sudden, it's now listed as commercial? How'd that happen?
It's not.
You go on Beacon Schneider, it's listed as commercial. It is not commercial, it is residential. And the business that's there now, when you say an online auction, the stuff still has to come in to be auctioned. So you've got trucks coming in, you've got great big flatbed trucks hauling cars and trucks and furniture and everything coming. Now there's an access road that they can use, like Arlene said, but they don't. It's down this road and it's speeding. And we are a residential area. We don't want commercials in there simply because it's just too much traffic. I have lived there 67 years. We were the first family to build a house there other than the farmhouses that are there. And I don't like it either. It's too much, way too much.
Thank you. So I just want to make a point of clarification. On Beacon, the commercial designation refers to the assessor's use of the property, not the zoning.
Okay.
Zoning is R1B. They're two separate issues.
So it is still listed as residential?
It's being used as a commercial property currently. That's what the assessor says. So that's where that commercial designation comes from.
Okay,
But it is zoned residential.
okay, all right, thank you.
All right, any other remonstrators? And if we could please, I'd like to hear something new.
To hear something new.
Yes, so your name and address for the record?
My name is Catherine Solar. My address is 11152 South, 1025 West, Wanata, Indiana, 46390. I live diagonal from the property in question. My biggest concerns is actually safety. It's been...
Point of order, madam.
Yep.
I'm sorry. These are remonstrations. This should go to the second phase. We're only talking about if someone has knowledge of what that building was used for. I'm not discounting what you're saying. It's just the wrong part. It's got to be, that goes to everybody. Okay.
Should I-
Oh, they're only deciding if the building was used and how the building was used before the petition. Okay.
I can only speak to the fact that it was not used in the way in which it's being used now on that part. Should I hold my peace for the second? Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not trying to cut anybody off. I'm trying to make sure we have a clear record for down the road if there's an appeal. So the people reviewing what happened here are clear about what we're talking about. Okay?
Okay. All right, well, if there are no further remonstrators, and thank you, Attorney Beachy, for getting me back on track, I will entertain a motion on whether or not we think the variance is needed.
I'd like to make a motion that we do need a variance because the property is being used differently than previous.
Well, I would, if you're going to make a motion, I would recommend you say that the evidence does not support the property being grandfathered in. I think that gives us a clear
Okay,
record.
yeah, that's a clear statement. I'll make that.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Okay, so on to part two.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, let's talk about the elements of the variance. That the variance would not be injurious to the public. Value to adjacent property owners would not be effective. Variance needs to be peculiar to that property. Strict application of the zoning is be an undue hardship, and variance does not interfere with the master plan. Moving on to page number 12. Actually 11. Property values would not be affected. We actually believe that property values would not be affected because we don't see this as a substantial change in use. In other words, we're not building a commercial facility next to homeowners. We have a commercial facility that's clearly been commercial for years. And you heard, we believe the current use actually is going to be less on homeowners in the area. You heard some testimony earlier about how people are driving in from the north, and I'm looking, I apologize. I'm sorry. If I could go back to page 10, could you back up? I'm sorry, I got myself off. Let's start with it's not injurious to the public, which is the first element. We believe it actually is less impact on the public because Kraft has taken steps to try and limit the amount of traffic through the major residential areas. So if you look at the property, it's in the bottom left, and the road on the left-hand side is completely lined with houses, and then the road on the north is only a half a mile off of 421. The reason Kraft changed the traffic pattern in from the north versus coming in from the west is because we have an easement through that property, and we felt there would be fewer homeowners impacted by having traffic come in from the north versus having to come in from the west side, which means you would have to pass at least 4 or 5 or 6 more houses. So we think the Kraft's already actually taken steps to decrease the impact on the public. I don't want to get away from my microphone, but what I'm talking about is there's a gate right here that could be used, and the reason they are not using that is because that would create traffic up and down this road that is residential versus coming in from the north, which would create less traffic. So we believe it's not injurious to the public because there's actually less impact based on that current traffic pattern. Property values, second element for the variance, that the property values would not be affected. Again, this is not us trying to build a commercial property in the middle of these houses. This is utilizing what is clearly a commercial property and has been for at least the last 40 years. Believe maybe there was one homeowner that existed current homeowner before that property was built. So we don't believe it would have a negative impact on the values as they sit the day before we requested the variance. I'm going to handle the third and the fourth element together, and that's the variance is peculiar to the property and strict application would be a hardship. We believe it's peculiar to this property because it's a property that's already, again, used as commercial, already has commercial warehouses. It's not something that could be built in the middle of a residential area or that we're even asking to be built or expanded in the middle of a residential area. And strict application would make the property certainly useless in its current form. It's not designed to be residential. Buildings would have to be torn down, and it would basically have to be sold as a vacant lot after all that was cleared off, and that rises to the level of an undue hardship on the property owner. And finally, that it does not substantially interfere with the master plan. We're not asking for a change that, if granted down the road, would lead to other major problems in the county zoning ordinance. We're asking for a property that is commercial, has been commercial for 40 years, and simply is allowed to continue to have a commercial use. We think that meets the elements for a variance to run an online auction. We'd request that we grant that variance.
You said that
Yes,
pickup is 4 times a month. How did the items get there?
Items are generally brought in by Kraft staff. Mm-hmm. Correct. Kraft from either a clean out or something like that. So bringing items in is generally done by Kraft.
And in pickup trucks, box truck,
So we have 8 by 24 foot enclosed trailers that when we go to
all of those trailers that are stored out there right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where the personal property is stored, and then it's unloaded into the warehouse, and then Those trailers then would then get filled again on another pickup subsequently at a later date and unloaded again.
And does that happen multiple times during the month, not just 4 times like pickup is?
Just once a month do we unload. And so then those trailers then go back to be loaded and are brought back to that facility.
Once a month.
Correct.
So you wouldn't have an estate sale or something that you're getting material from on a Tuesday and 2 weeks later another different truck or trailer coming in with additional items.
They're all the same trailers that are on the same site. I guess I'm not understanding correctly what the question is.
So you said people pick up 4 times. Is that your pickup, or I bought something on your auction and I'm coming to pick it up?
That's you bought something on the auction and are coming to pick
But
it up.
the items can show up at your auction location there in Wanata anytime during the month, not just 4 times.
By appointment only, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is the fence currently all the way around the entire facility?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before I sit down?
No, we're going to listen to the remonstrators now. Thank you. All right, we're still going to go with those 3 minutes.
I'll hurry.
Okay,
I can approach.
please. I won't even add that on your 3 minutes, no. You know, I maybe only 29, but I remember this.
So what I've given you is a set of pictures which my client's husband took today. So the picture 1 obviously shows several automobiles, many parked on grass, which is an ordinance violation in the city of LaPorte. I didn't have a chance to look it up to see if it is in the county. If you flip to the second page, you can see a row of, we'll call them items. One man's item is another man's treasure. Out beyond the gravel parking area, I don't know if that's property to be sold, property to be disposed of, but does not look real orderly. I'm not sure how you argue that does not affect the property value of the folks across the street. It would appear to me to be a distinct assault on the property values of the people across the street. Third picture shows further more property outside, a motorhome in back. Couldn't even put the dumpster back behind the building. Had to put the dumpster right out where it was visible from your remonstrators. So I think you have a definite assault on the property values. The grant of the variance would certainly be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and welfare of the community. With all these items sitting outside, 2 of you are farmers, you know what happens when we leave items sitting around outside. Pretty soon you've got bugs, you've got mice, you've got rats living under them. Increased traffic is one of the remonstrators mentioned. The address for this property is that gate that faces these residences. So the people coming there, unless they're a continuous customer, are first going there, finding the closed gate, seeing the sign on the gate says use north entrance, so it is increasing traffic on the road. We've talked about the use and value of the property will be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The need for the variance doesn't arise from a condition peculiar to the property. It arises from a condition peculiar to what they want to use it for. Had it been REMC, and again, we had, the whole issue of the break in the chain of use, that would be hard to argue against. But this, if you grant this variance, you are granting it for something that's conditioned, not a condition peculiar to the property. Strict application would not be an undue hardship to the the petitioners. They should have looked into this before they bought it. They should have made some zoning assessments at that time. And more importantly, you only need 1 of the 5 to deny this variance. The grant of the variance does interfere substantially with the master plan. There is no use even close to this that is allowed in the R1B zoning classification, you have to jump up to the industrial and the one business district to even find a classification for an auction house. So when that ordinance was revised, specific thought was given to where do we want an auction house, and it was not in an R1B area. On behalf of my clients, I would ask that you deny the variance. And Mike, did you receive the letter from Eva Grizelak? I believe you had. If not, I thought I said you had. That was a letter that was sent by a adjoining property owner who couldn't be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to come up and do your remonstrance? Go ahead.
Start with my name and address.
Yes, please.
My name is Catherine Solar. I live at 11152 South, 1025 West, Wanata, Indiana. As I was saying earlier, I do feel that this company going in here is an issue as far as safety and privacy. The gentleman before me was absolutely correct when he said that everyone is using their GPS and it is sending them to that west gate. They're stopping in front of our houses. They're coming into our property using our driveways as turnaround points. Myself in particular, I work from home. It is a giant distraction because these are not just your typical cars. These are flatbed trucks, trailers, vans, all kinds. Some people even have U-Haul vehicles they're bringing in. So it's a safety, it's a privacy concern for myself. It's a distraction from my work that I do. I also have another safety concern when they are turning around and using that area that goes through the Clinton T-ball fields. In the spring and summer, there are giant baseball games there. My husband and our nephews play on that team, and I've been to many of the games, and there are children everywhere during these games, and the amount of traffic that is going through there is significant. It has genuinely affected our day-to-day activities when this is going on, and I do fear that in the spring and summer a child's going to get hurt because they're everywhere. They're playing as their siblings are playing baseball, and there is a continuous line of traffic during these pickups. I know they've said it's 4 times a month, but it's Wednesday through Saturday, and there are hundreds of vehicles coming through. And this does not include, they have not mentioned that the week prior, I think it usually is, that these same people can come and view all of the items prior to the week of pickup, in addition to the items also being shipped to there. So I do ask that you guys deny the variance for those reasons. It has been a giant disruption, much more so than the landscaping company that was there prior. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Any additional remonstrators, either for or against?
Madam President, the
Yes.
letter that was given to me was not part of the record or provided to the board ahead of time, and it had not made its way to me, so I'm going to bring it up now.
Okay, thank you. Would you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Evelyn Eads, and I live at 11241 South 1025 West in Wanata. We live just south of the fence on the south side, and we agree with Arlene. We have traffic turning around in our driveway all the time, and they're tearing up the grass, and I'm too am concerned about the ball field. The kids out there, we can hear them, back and forth to the game, but we also hear the traffic going back and forth. And I don't know how many times a day we see flatbed trucks that have cars and, washing machines and things that they have for the auction, go by the house and they turn in the driveways all the time. And I think it's a safety issue. And I don't think that it should be zoned for a industrial or business or commercial thing, because it is residential because of all the people that do live there. And it is a safety issue, and I'm just real concerned for the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any other remonstrance? Anybody for or against? Okay. So hearing and seeing none, if you want to come back up.
Can I get a quick rebuttal? I'll address
No,
that.
you may not.
Oh, sorry.
You can stand at the podium, but
Go ahead.
what kind of questions do we have from the board?
I guess a question, comment, whatever. From what I'm hearing is that we're not really looking to use this as a warehouse. It looks to me like it's a little bit more than that. Obviously, I'm familiar with the property because my grandsons play on that baseball field too. It gets pretty crowded during baseball games. The other problem that I see here is that there's no way to change the address of the property because you don't have frontage on that east-west road. And because of the address of the property, it gets very confusing for people that are wanting to deliver things there. So it causes excess traffic, like they said, and I can just see this happening, people turning around in driveways. So it becomes a real big issue here. And the zoning obviously is residential. So it's just, that's the way that I'm seeing it right now, unless you can convince me otherwise. And I don't think you can.
Do you have any comments?
Well, I was kind of thinking the same with him as I'm hearing 4 drop-off times or pickup times, and then 1 time with your trailers. But then I'm hearing it seems like there's really a lot more than that going on, and that was my concern, is there would be a lot of that.
What about you?
Obviously, judging from the pictures that Mr. Ambers presented today, there's quite a few vehicles parked there, and I don't think they're for sale. So there must be some activity going on there, and of course it makes more for traffic.
Okay. If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we deny the petition for variance for the use of Olo Auction Holding, representing the council by Andrew Lucas, to operate an online auction business. The property is located, because of where the property is located in a residential district, and the traffic that would be created would be a hardship on the people in the area.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, so the motion to deny the petition, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Okay. Good luck. Do we need to have a motion on how long before things need to be removed, or?
Well, I didn't hear that anything was on the property that shouldn't
Okay,
be.
well, you're absolutely right, but I'm gathering from the photos that we saw from Mr. Ambers that maybe there are items there.
Well, I think Michael also took evidence of that. There are open pallets with equipment on it, with
Okay, yeah,
items
you
for
could
sale.
give it a period of time in which to remove the property.
Is that something we want to do as a board?
I guess my question is, could that property still be used for storage only?
They didn't ask for that.
And I think
They're not using it for storage.
I think that's the one comment that probably should be made, that I mean, they could come back with a different request, and within, with
I'm sure their lawyer can advise them as to what their next steps could be.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so no motion to move items. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to petition number 4. Petition for variance of developmental standards for H. Sean and Tiffany H. Mitchell to convert an existing garage into a guest home. The property is located at 4343 West, 300 North LaPorte, Center Township, zoned R1B on 40 acres.
Notice adequate.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Liz Conklin.
Okay.
I live at 501 Benton Street, Michigan City. I'm here for Sean. He's out of town. He did say he submitted the petition. I don't know if he adjusted it, because it was originally supposed to be on top of the garage, but they've changed it to keep the garage and build the home in front of the garage. I don't know if he adjusted it when he was down at the office or not. He did not.
No. Yeah, I don't think so either.
What is this one?
The petition says convert an existing garage into a guest home.
Correct.
Is that what you're asking for tonight?
No. He changed it.
All right, so I'm gonna stop you there.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like I
That's,
said.
well, that's why we send notice to neighbors and
Yes.
publish in the newspaper
Yes.
to tell everyone what you're asking for.
Okay.
You can change it, but you're gonna have to do the notices over and come back.
Okay, so does he need to file another petition here too and then do all that?
You can amend the petition to avoid, I don't even know, do you have a filing fee? I don't even know. But either way, the point of it is, the point of notice is to let the neighbors know what you're asking for. And if your question changes, you gotta tell them what your new question is. Okay?
All right. Okay, thank you
Okay,
so much.
and I would, if the rest of the board agrees, I would say we waive the fee for the second.
Yeah, you can, that's fine. They need to re-notice
Right,
repetition.
absolutely.
And an updated drawing or site plan.
Yeah, he has that. Did he send that to you
Didn't
too?
get it yet, that's why.
Gotcha.
And then
I'll email it to you.
you want to check them because you may be up higher in the meeting for the next time.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for your time.
Thank you. I apologize you had to wait.
No, it was quite interesting actually.
Okay, petition number 5 is a petition for variance of developmental standards for Trudy L. Hall Trust for construction of a 15-foot by 30-foot shed for personal storage on a parcel without a primary residence. The property is located south of 306 Holton Road, LaPorte, Center Township, zoned R1B on 3.04 acres.
Notice is adequate.
All right. Hi there.
Hello, good evening.
If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Donnie Pollock with Amish Structures at 8555 West US Highway 20, Michigan City.
All right.
We're looking to do a shed. It's on a vacant piece of land that they have across the street from a property that they already have with a barn on it. And it's looking to just store a tractor and some implements for some tractors.
Okay.
There is an existing shed on the property. Once the new one would go up, if that is granted, we would be removing the old shed.
Can you show us where that's at on this picture?
It must be really well hidden.
The old shed?
Maybe it's this.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
It's probably this.
Well,
Here, how about?
it's gonna, yeah, it's that, which is gonna be,
Where's it at?
it's gonna be right here in this corner. You guys need that? Yeah, it's going
Yeah.
right down.
Here's the pictures for.
Yeah. Okay.
It sits south of that, so the house is here.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Where is it?
That's where this green one must be. Is the green ones. Since it's little, it was able to go right up against something.
That's the one that was
So-
coming down.
It was able to go right against the property line because it was
Right.
incidental.
So the green shed's coming down.
Well, we're removing it, yeah, we're not tearing it down.
Okay.
The size was at 15 by
30?
30? Okay, well, I think I actually shrunk it to 14.
What?
So
14.
14 by 30.
Yeah.
Why? Oh.
A lot of the stuff that we do is prefab. So to build a 15-foot wide building versus a 14,
Yeah, sure.
saving him some money. He's gonna lose a foot, but I'm gonna save him a couple bucks.
And did we see exactly where it's going? Is that this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Are there any remonstrators tonight for this petition? Anybody for or against it? Any remonstrators?
You're putting it here?
Right here. Okay. Hearing and seeing none, are there no?
I did have a question now that there were no answers. So what does the shed look like?
Standard gable pitch. It's got an 812 pitch, and it's got a garage door at one end and a service door on the side.
Is it shingled?
It's gonna be metal roof.
Metal roof.
So we're gonna do more natural colors to try to blend into the area.
Obviously, the owners live
They live
across
on
the
Oak.
street.
They live on the island on Oak Drive.
Okay.
But they have
Well, I kind of searched around Beacon there, and I noticed that the Hull Trust,
We've seen some of those where
they've got like 4
reflect
parcels,
roofs.
same
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
A lot of people there involved. And this property also belongs to that same family? Is that what you're talking about?
He's on an elevation. It's gonna be right
There is
in his line of sight.
I know you're asking for a variance to put that shed there. Obviously, this area here has a wetland.
We are over 50 feet away.
Right. But, you know, in the future, when they're going to be coming back to us looking to put a residence there, is be an issue.
I know they did talk about it, but they know that it's probably not going to get granted, so they're not going to go down that avenue.
But they do maintain their residences very nicely on the other side of the street.
Yeah, they take very good care of their properties.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'm concerned about the metal roof because we've had this come before us many times. There's a home to the north of it that has an elevation that they're going to be able to see it, and we've had glare problems with these before. So the only thing I'm going to say is that it needs to have a shingled roof.
Architectural shingles.
You can make that as part of a motion.
Okay, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to move that we grant the variance for developmental standards, but the shed must have a shingled roof.
Okay. So.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Everybody's second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, good luck.
All right, thank you. Guys, enjoy your evening.
All right. Petition for variance of developmental standards for Donna Tomac for construction of a deck with a rear setback of 8 feet instead of 15 minimum required. The property is located at 100 Island Drive, LaPorte, Center Township, zoned R1B, 1.165 acres.
Notice adequate.
Just down the street.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Donna Tomac, 100 Island Drive in LaPorte. I'm just requesting to have the deck put in 16 wide by 12 feet out. It'll be composite decking. The reason why I'm asking for the variance that size is to be fitted with the home. It's not too small and it looks like a little kit. And just want to make it go with the home in the back. As you can see, there's nothing there now. I've done improvements to the home in the back already, as far as the sliding glass door and an additional window in the back, so it balances out. Now I would like to put a deck in to balance out the rest of the home.
Okay.
You wouldn't fall out when you open the door now.
Let's hope not.
No, and thank you for providing us with some survey and other drawings to give us a good idea of what your plans are. Are there any remonstrators for this petition? Anybody for or against? Any remonstrators? Okay, hearing and seeing no remonstrators, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the petition for a variance of developmental standards for Donna Tomac for her deck.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Good luck.
Build a deck.
Make sure you get your building permit.
Thank you.
All right, we're rounding this guy out. Petition number 7 is a petition for variance of developmental standards for Denny Follis for an addition of a deck with a rear waterway setback of 14 feet instead of 50 feet minimum. Properties at 314 Oak Drive, LaPorte, Center Township, zoned R1B.
Notice adequate.
Sorry. That's fine, thank you. All right, if you would please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Denny Follis. I live at 314 Oak Drive in LaPorte. And I'm here to ask for the board to grant a variance to allow me to extend my existing deck when I redo it 4 feet further out than it currently is.
Oh, yeah. Are there any remonstrators for this petition? Anybody for or against it? How far away will you be from the wetland area, the water?
Well, I believe that they said it was 14 feet after the addition. I have there's a concrete break wall all the way around the pond on my property. And I'd only be putting in 4 additional posts.
Okay. Right. Again, are there any remonstrators for this petition? Hearing and seeing none, if there are no questions from the board, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we grant the petition for variance for developmental standards for Mr. Follis for an addition of a deck with a rear waterway setback of 14 feet instead of 50. It would be an addition to his existing deck.
Correct.
My second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Good luck. Make sure you
Thank
get
you.
your building permit. Oh, and I have your photo. Thanks. All right, rounding it out this evening is petition number 8. Thank you for your patience. Petition for variance of developmental standards for Daniel and Jody Bonnie for construction of a second accessory building to the side of a home instead of the rear. Property is located at 414 Lakeside Drive, Walkerton, Lincoln Township, zoned R1B.
No, this is adequate.
Perfect. If you would state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Daniel Boney. I live at 414 Lakeside Drive, Walkerton, Indiana, in Lincoln Township, 46574.
All right. We do have an extra handout, so if you give us just a moment.
Sure.
I have mine. Oh, he's got some. No, there isn't one. This came with. This is all that's in there. Yes, that's all we got. And then this is new.
Okay. We've got a lot of papers here, so bear with it.
Sure.
Just while we're looking through these, can you tell me what is the exterior metal? You're looking at a metal building or?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay. Metal roof?
Yes.
Okay.
So the question, the variance is because of the location of the distance from the property line on the next to adjacent property.
The variance is to place the proposed structure to the side instead of the rear.
Okay. Obviously,
And it
in the rear,
just-
it gets closer to the water.
You're just barely, how many feet north of, in front of the house are you going?
In front of the existing home,
Yes. How much will
there is
it? It looks like,
25 feet.
okay.
25 feet? But it's 70 feet, according to the drawing, it's 70 feet from the road.
From the road, and the
house
home is
set
95.
95 feet.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Thanks, Vern. I was hung up on 17 feet.
What's that?
I was hung up on 17.
Yeah, that's it. It's 70. So it's not nowhere near the road, but I mean, the
Slightly in
adjacent
front.
property is owned by relatives, is that correct?
It is my brother.
Yes.
I don't see him here as a remonstrator.
No, he couldn't make it.
What'd you do, tie him down?
Are there any remonstrators for this petition, either for or against? Any remonstrators? Seeing and hearing no remonstrators, are there questions from the board?
Should we ask if it's big enough?
You know, I do. I want to honor Dwayne every time I see a garage, and he would ask every time, "Is it big enough?" And that guy said he was going to take a foot off of the other one. I was like, "Oh, all right." This looks like a good size structure,
We're
right?
hoping to get our pontoon in there in the
Very
winters.
We better measure the pontoon first, and you're not going to get a bigger one.
We did.
If there are no questions, there are no remonstrators, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that the petition for variance of developmental standards for Daniel P. and Jody Boini be granted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Good luck.
Thank you.
And make sure you get your building permit.
Thank you.
Is there any further business in front of the board this evening?
Here's Fulton's shit.
No, ma'am.
Oh, ma'am.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.